All right, in 1976, yeah, we're starting there. In 1976, Disney put out a movie. I know of this movie because it would then go to VHS. It would be shown all over the place. I would have, and then there was the Disney Channel happened when I was a kid. It was on the Disney Channel. But there was a movie, and I would be shocked, Brendan, if you have heard of said movie. Have you ever heard of the movie Gus, the Field Goal Kicking Mule?
I want to say it sounds familiar, but I have no recollection.
Okay. I'm glad you didn't know of this movie because let me tell you the premise. The premise is back in the 70s, there is a football team, and they stink. They can't win a game. They haven't won a game in years. And trying to draw fans, the owner of said team, the California Adams, the owner of said team finds a story about a mule in Yugoslavia that could kick soccer balls. And they bring this mule as an attraction to a halftime show. Gus is the name of the mule. And Gus is then kicking footballs through the uprights at a halftime show. And they go, wait a minute. There's nothing in the rule book in professional football that says that a mule can't play for a football team. There's nothing specifically in the rule books saying that you can't bring out a Yugoslavian mule named Gus to kick field goals for your team. So the league says there's no rule. They have to let him play. They strap a helmet on a mule in 1976, and he's kicking 100-yard field goals. And they score every time they get the ball, and they would end up playing in the Super Bowl. That's Gus, the field goal kicking mule. Why do I bring that up? Because obviously the 12th man on the field has become the new storyline for the Oregon-Ohio State game. It started off with the Will Howard slide. It started and it is now morphed into what did it mean from a playoff perspective, what did it mean from a Big Ten perspective, and now it is morphed into the 12th men on the field. And there's a lot of hot talk on the internet, which is kind of fun. Like I mentioned last segment, there's theory one. Dan Lanning is playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers. There's nothing in the rule that says you can't intentionally put 12 men on the field. You're going to get a 5-yard penalty, but there's nothing in the rule book that says you can Gus, field goal kicking mule. Nothing in the rule book says you can't put a mule out there to kick. Oi! That's what the guy would say. He said, oi! And then Gus would kick backwards 100-yard field goal. I would highly recommend watching the movie. It's probably way too dated, but it was funny when I was 9 or probably 7.
I don't know, Justin. I think my days of kids' movies, until I have kids of my own, are probably past me.
It's a field goal kicking mule. Anyways, it's probably a lot like Air Bud. There's nothing in the rules that says that a dog can't play basketball.
I imagine it's probably a little like Little Big League for me, Justin, where I'm like, I look back and it's like that movie is so unrealistic, but kind of a guilty little pleasure.
I think, okay, Little Big League, more realistic, crazy as it sounds, than Rookie of the Year.
I think I say Draft Day. I go, yeah, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that
Rookie
one.
of the Year, he broke his arm and now a kid can throw the ball. It's like, no, but Little Big League, there might be some crazy smart kid out there who could manage a baseball team. He had Mac to help him. Anyways.
Maybe I'll have to, I don't know, Justin. Maybe I'll have to watch it at some point.
With all the analytics and stuff that goes on in baseball, like, you could throw a 12-year-old out there, I think. It's like the GM puts together a good team. Could a 12-year-old coach the Dodgers?
That is a great question.
Like, Dave Roberts getting raked over the coals last round of the playoffs for the way he handled, like, could a 12-year-old coach the Dodgers, manage the Dodgers? They got Shohei Ohtani.
Great question.
Anyways, back to Gus and more importantly, back to the Dan Lanning thing, right? Nothing in the rule book says specifically if you intentionally put 12 guys out on the field, that should be deemed more punishable than accidentally putting 12 guys out on the field. So, like I said, there's that theory. Then there's so Dan Lanning's a genius. Dan Lanning is a cheater. because there's the spirit of the rule. And if you believe that violating the spirit of the rule as opposed to the letter of the rule makes you a cheater, I could understand that. I disagree with it because I believe we do it all the time in sports. More on that in a moment. And then there's the theory that Oregon was confused coming out of a timeout, that it was madness there, that they threw a 12th guy out there, and it just happened to work out in their favor, and they got lucky, and that afterwards, everybody's saying that the Oregon coaching staff, including Dan Lanning, is a genius, that they're just not going to interrupt someone when they're calling you a genius. I don't believe that's the case. I think they put 12 guys out there on purpose. Now, it brings up an interesting discussion. What is cheating? Where does gamesmanship end and cheating begin? Here's my theory on this one to the Dan Lanning is a cheater people. I think this one is different because we haven't seen it yet. Brendan, I've been watching a lot of football. I watched a lot of football, and I guess apparently it's happened before where I think Arizona, maybe threw out 13 guys out there, but I've never seen a situation where somebody intentionally threw out an extra defender to purposely take a 5-yard penalty to burn off clock. Why? Think about the situation that had to happen for this to even get there. Do you know what I mean? You would never do this if they were in field goal range because that puts them 5 yards closer. You would never do it if it wasn't anywhere between 10 to 12 to 14 seconds because there's too much time. It only works if they are at midfield with about 10 to 12 seconds in the situation that Oregon was in. It only works there. But go ahead, NCAA, fix the rule. So I think he put him out there on purpose. I think it's gamesmanship. I don't know if I would put it off as cheating. So I brought up some other examples. I was sitting last night thinking about this because I was arguing with Fentress on Twitter. Aaron Fentress, whom I love and I love debating with, he's going to join us on Friday, and we're going to have a whole lot of fun with this as well. But I brought up some other things. Oregon purposely took a 5-yard penalty to burn off 4 seconds. Is that different than, say, intentionally taking a knee, not running a play, to run off 40 seconds of game clock when you have the lead and the ball? You might be saying, Justin, that's such a false equivalence. Is it? Or is it just we're used to seeing it? We're used to seeing a team at the end of the game, bink, take a knee. Is the spirit of the rule that when you run the ball, the clock continues to run so that you could, with the ball in your hand and the lead secure, take a knee? That's not the spirit of the rule. The spirit of the rule is you are supposed to be tackled down to your knee, not taking a knee intentionally. That violates the spirit of the rule. I don't know if anyone would say that is cheating. Other ones I thought of. Purposely taking a delay a game so you have more room to punt. We see it all the time. You're out of field goal range, but it's going to be a tight punt. Don't want to punt it into the end zone to give them a touchback. Purposely take a delay a game. Move yourself back 5. You give yourself an advantage by being penalized. Intentionally taking a safety. You're up 10. You don't want to punt out of your end zone. Or maybe you're up, I don't know. Maybe you're up 7. You take the intentional safety, burn off enough clock. That way you can punt and kick off from the 20. We don't see that all that often, but it happens. How about fouling to stop the clock in basketball? Isn't that violating the spirit of the rule to manage the clock? You're not trying to steal the ball. You're trying to foul. Trying to foul so that the clock stops. That is breaking the rule. You face a punishment. That punishment is free throws. The clock is stopped while it's doing it. it could potentially be to your advantage. This is one that I think a lot of people fouling while up 3, right? That's the whole new thing. That's when do you think, Brendan? You watch a lot of basketball. When did the fouling up 3 become commonplace? Because it's not like it's been going on forever.
Just in the last 10 years. Just since, like, ridiculous guys just started to be able to make crazy three-pointers, right?
Yeah.
Dame, Steph, Kyrie, Durant, right? Before that, there were good three-point shooters, but you weren't like, oh, yeah, we have to, foul because, like, I don't know. I don't think there was ever, like, Ray Allen has the ball.
Yeah.
We have to foul him so he doesn't get a 3-up. Like, Ray Allen was great. But I think, you know what I mean? Like, you get what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, well, I was going to look because, like 1999, D. Brown of the Raptors, by the way, who won a dunk contest, he was I'm trying to find the 3-point percentages. Because now you get these guys in the NBA, they're shooting 38, 40% from 3. That's insane. No one was doing, let's see, well, I guess in 1999, Del Curry shot 47%. That's pretty good. Really screws up my argument. But I see when you get 2 to 3 guys who are so comfortable shooting, it's a normal shot now. So is fouling up 3 gamesmanship or cheating? This one also was it's been an Oregon thing, and it was on game day because Ole Miss keeps doing it a lot this year. Brendan, where are you on faking injuries? Faking injuries to slow down the offense. Is that cheating or is that gamesmanship? Feigning injury.
Wait, are we reporting these injuries?
Depending on what league you're in, I guess. What conference you're in. In the middle of Ole Miss has been doing it. It happened to Oregon in the Chip Kelly era. Like, guys would go down, grab their hamstring. Cal famously did it, 2010.
It's a great irony because your current defensive coordinator told them to fall down.
Well, he was the fall. Yeah, he did. He made the signal. I still do not believe Jeff Tedford when he says I did not know anything about this.
But no,
yes, it is the irony of all ironies. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go so far as to say cheating. I think it's just kind of like I look at it as like the same old footballism. Like, if you need to run trick plays, it shows that you're not good enough to beat that team normally. If you need to do that, it shows you're not good enough to beat that team normally.
Yeah.
And that's how I'd look at it from the other side. I go, okay, these guys got to fake injuries because they know they can't stop us.
Yeah.
Like, truth be told, hello, Oregon State's defense could have maybe fallen to the ground.
Maybe they should have faked a couple
Reno.
of injuries.
Just I don't know if they throw that out there.
I don't know if they want to fake. Sounds like you got enough real injuries.
Well, we do, but I mean, I don't know why no one could have just just taken a minute and been like, hey, the elevation, here in Reno need a little. But no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But no, I don't think I don't think it's like illegal. I just look at it as it's like, okay, that's what you have to do because you're not on our level.
Sure. So, but still, you put it as gamesmanship as opposed to cheating.
Yeah.
I can see it. I said for decades, when this was going on against Oregon and Chip Kelly, I was like, I believe an easy way to fix it. Because they're like, how do you fix it? Do you call someone a liar? I'm like, no, there's an easy way to fix it. You go down with an injury because we care so much about player safety. Remember, we heard so much about that? Player safety is paramount. You go down with a fake injury, how about this? You're out for the series. You're not out for the game. You're not out for the quarter. But you're out for the rest of that series. You can't go down with an injury and then get back in the next play. You go down with an injury, you're out for the series. I've fixed it. Still, nobody's called me. Because I'll bet you a lot of defensive coaches would think, all right, are we willing to sacrifice a starting defensive lineman for the next 5 plays? Because if you get injured, you shouldn't be coming back in the next play. We got to check you out, bud. We got to get you an examination. Other things I thought of. And again, these sound crazy to think, Justin, what do you mean is this cheating? It's because we're so used to them. Like I said, taking a knee, running out the clock. That's not the spirit of the rule. We're just used to seeing it. How about an intentional walk? How about an intentional walk in baseball? How many times they intentionally walked Barry Bonds because they knew that if they threw the ball anywhere close to the plate, he's going to hit it in McCovey Cove. An intentional walk. It's
gamesmanship.
It's gamesmanship, right? It's
no different than how you've had star players, Justin. I mean, again, Oregon State had the top player taken in this last draft in Travis Bazzana, and he got walked an awful lot this last year because anybody knew that if he threw it down Broadway,
ting, it's gone.
Gone.
Is that is that Western out there in right field, Baum right field?
Yeah, Western. Sometimes I said I'm still waiting for the day that somebody hits a train.
Oh yeah. The train tracks run right by there.
I've said forever, like back when you know, like when I was there, it was always like, does anybody have the power to actually lift it to the train? And then I heard from like Mitch Canham that in, you know, hitting practice and whatnot, people have definitely launched it over that, and it's like, man, I need to see that on a game day where it's like trains going by just.
Back in the late 90s when we were using jacked up bats, I'll bet you somebody might have been able to get it to Gil.
Really?
On a bounce.
Yeah.
But
that'd be pretty cool.
These trampoline bats we were using, it was unfair.
That's pretty cool.
It was unfair.
I would have liked to have seen. Could you have gotten one to the top of the parking garage, Justin?
Well, the parking garage didn't exist in 1998, but
just now.
And that happened. We're both existed at the same time.
Yeah.
But no, think about like an intentional walk.
It's true.
What about the first? Because in baseball's infancy, like back when it like Abner Doubleday and all those guys were playing back in the 1800s, it was like disrespectful to throw a ball. It was disrespectful to not throw it over the plate because that was going against the spirit of the rules of the game. Could you imagine the first time somebody did an intentional walk? We are going to walk this player to give him first base on purpose so he doesn't hit. I don't see that as any different as to what Dan Lanning in Oregon did.
You want to take a guess when the first intentional walk was, Justin? It was given to Napoleon. That should tell you the name.
All right, so his name's Napoleon.
Lehoy, I'm just going to go off that, of the Philadelphia Athletics.
Philadelphia Athletics.
In the ninth inning of a bases-loaded game.
They walked him with the bases juiced? Napoleon must have had an absolute stick. He must have been able to just rake balls.
1901. So a lot of history behind your theory on this one, Justin. Long time.
But you know what I mean? Could you imagine, like, the first... If there was Twitter in 1901, the hot takes on what team intentionally walked him, do we know?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find. Oh, yes. Let's see. The White Sox.
Could you imagine the Twitter was like, are the White Sox cheaters? They wouldn't even throw to Napoleon. That's what we're talking about. Now, the NCAA might change the rule. Did Oregon violate the spirit of the rule? Yeah, they did. But so does taking a knee to run the clock out.
For the sake of details, Justin, because I know there's someone probably screaming, there is another date 20 years earlier in 1881. So before a great TV show that we watched. So just put that in your head. Like around the time we're in covered
Crossing
wagons.
Crossing the Brazos, yeah.
Yeah, covered wagons. Supposedly there's one that's kind of like, we don't know about the record keeping, but it could have happened.
Could have happened in 1881.
Yeah. So
I'm just imagining 1901, bases loaded, and Napoleon, what's his last name again? Lehoy was so good that they're like, nope, we're going to walk him on purpose. We're going to give up only one run.
I got to give him credit, though, because this other dude was Abner Dalrymple. I mean, kind of some crazy names back then, man. I mean, it's kind of interesting.
Dalrymple.
After that, Justin, here's kind of something interesting. After the 40s, nobody ever walked bases loaded intentionally till Barry Bonds in 98 after the 40s. So I think that's pretty telling.
Yeah. But, I mean, it was walking Barry Bonds Did that violate the spirit of the rule? Yeah, the spirit of the rule is you should throw strikes, and if you don't throw strikes, you get punished. But yet you intentionally break a rule so that the punishment is not as much as the actual outcome. It's the same as an intentional walk. It's the same.
But is throwing balls against the rules? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like,
But the spirit of the rule is you should throw balls over the plate. If you don't, you get penalized. The penalty is they get first base. To me, it's the same concept, just they don't throw a flag. This is the thing I thought about way too much yesterday. Anyways, fun conversation. We're going to go on camp. Mike Gundy almost got knocked out by a cow. We got to talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, while there may not be specific rules in terms of injuries and reporting of said injuries the way they do it in the NFL, in college football, there is still a handful of, I think, significant injuries around the country. We talked about Cam Rising yesterday, and will he be coming back for his 8th year of college football, and will he be coming back for the Utah Utes? I think Kyle Whittingham even said he's welcome back. He's part of our team, and I could see both sides of that. We talked about it yesterday, but there's a handful of others, including one of the best players in the country, one of the best players for Oregon, and one prominent coach in the country, what we talked about earlier, which is having 12 men on the field, and is it gamesmanship, and blah, blah, blah. Is he a genius? Was he lucky? All that stuff. But there was another part of it, which was Oregon played this game without Jordan Birch, who is arguably their best defensive player, and that is no offense to Jabbar Muhammad. That's no offense to Jeffrey Bossa, but Jordan Birch has been an absolute game wrecker of a defensive lineman for the Ducks this year. He did not play after an unspecified lower extremity. I'm shocked we even got the half of the body that we heard about. It sounds like not out for the season, which you never know, but likely not to play against Purdue. That doesn't surprise me either. Oregon realizes this season comes down to Michigan, Wisconsin, Washington. My opinion. That's what the season comes down to. Michigan, Wisconsin, both on the road, and then rivalry game against Washington. If you've got problems with Illinois and Maryland at home and Purdue on the road, you got bigger fish to fry. But this season now comes down to 3 games before potentially a Big Ten championship. So I would be shocked if we see Jordan Birch play against Purdue on a short week on Friday. Travis Hunter left the game against Kansas State in a loss for Colorado last week, but with a shoulder injury, Deion Sanders says he is definitely going to play against Arizona coming up this week. The Big 12, by the way, is getting a little bit kooky. Arizona State, Dillingham, I was wrong about that hire. Dillingham's got them playing hard. He's got them playing well. Good for them. I was right, though, so far about Iowa State. I remember over the summer, I said, Matt Campbell didn't forget how to play football or how to coach football. And Iowa State, along with BYU, currently at the top of the Big 12, didn't have that one, though, on a lot of people's predictions. But the weirdest injury of the week is at Oklahoma State. No, Justin, Oklahoma State didn't play last week. Oh, I know. Because apparently during the bye week, old Coach Gundy of the Cowboys, more than just wears a cowboy logo on his polo, he is an actual cowboy who raises cattle, which doesn't surprise me at all. And apparently, Mike Gundy got headbutted by a cow, and his eye filled up with blood and is experiencing dizziness. He did not hold his weekly press conference in person, did it over Zoom. And prominent coach in college football is day-to-day with cow headbutt injury.
Yeah, Justin, this isn't surprising because in a way, Friday Night Lights set us up for this. Remember I think it was one of the seasons when, I think it's season 4.
Season 4. Was that when Landry killed a guy?
No, that was 2. That was 2.
All right. Still won't talk about that.
I know, right? Hey, man, it was great TV. Back when
that guy's dead.
So that's back, Justin.
In Dillon, Texas. This is just gone.
I'm going to say a very loaded statement that I know might upset you, but I'm going to say it. That's back when NBC could make a show like that. They're not capable of making a show like that anymore.
Have you ever seen Chicago PD? All right.
You're comparing Chicago PD to Friday Night Lights?
Hey, I'm just saying, have you ever seen it?
No.
Okay.
I don't think. But we've established things that I think are great that you won't watch either. So I have to be just as stubborn.
Okay.
Is you won't watch things that I recommend.
Let's not get aggressive here.
I'm like,
let's not get aggro about
it. Gotta stay equal here.
Just saying.
Well,
you ever seen Chicago PD?
How many times have I said? Have you seen Avatar?
Do you know about Voight? You know about Voight? Yeah. Anyways.
That all being said, yeah, I mean, there was an injury when Luke was working on the family farm and he got the hip pointer when he got his leg smashed in by the cows, man. And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, you didn't tell us?" He's like, "Nah, I work on the family farm, dude." So this is obviously not that. It's not a player, but
There is only one coach in the country. Is there another coach in the country where if you were to have heard headbutted by an actual cow and is experiencing dizziness and may almost lost an eye, is
it sad that I would think Dan Campbell? Is that crazy?
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
But what other coach in college
college,
football would
he,
you just be like, all right, that makes sense. It's just Gundy. Gundy's the only guy.
whoever the head coach of I'm going to get real geographical here, but whoever the head coach of Texas Tech is, if you live in Lubbock, yeah.
Who is the head coach at Texas Tech?
It's a great question.
Should we know this?
But yes,
Oregon just played them last year.
Yeah, if you're in Lubbock, there ain't much to do in Lubbock but raise cattle. Let's be honest. It's probably it though. Yeah, I don't.
Because obviously you think Texas Longhorns, right? But Sark's not a cowboy.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
And Austin's nice. He got Bevo and everything, but that's more of a.
And Mike Elko at Texas A&M, he's not he's from Duke, right? And I know he was assistant at Texas A&M before, but yeah, Gundy's the only guy.
So we're asking. What you're basically getting at, Justin, is which coach's neck is maybe red enough for this to.
Gundy's the reddest neck
apply?
of all the redneck coaches in the Power Four right now.
Is it even close?
It's not even close. All right, he's got a mullet, and everybody's like, that tracks. All right, coming up next.
It's pretty cool though.
Some wide receivers changing teams. Is that going to make a smidge of difference in the NFL? Plus some thoughts on baseball last night. We got Make or Miss. We are locked and loaded for hour number 2 next. 620 Rip City Radio.
7 a.m. on a Wednesday. Brendan Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. The Yankees take a 2-0 lead over the Cleveland Guardians with a 6-3 victory in New York. The series will now shift to Cleveland. Meanwhile, the Mets and Dodgers, Game 3, will be getting underway tonight. And over in the NFL, Devontae Adams is officially a Jet and joins Aaron Rodgers for a third-round pick that could become a second if conditions are met. One of two receivers traded yesterday as the Cleveland Browns look to be punting on the season by trading away Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. Coming up on the big show, we're going to make or miss in hour 2. We're going to have Tyson Alger in hour 3. Got a whole lot. 2 more hours of damage here to do on a Wednesday.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are all having a fantastic Wednesday. We've got Make or Miss in approximately 20 minutes. We have also got stuff we saw on the internet coming up in approximately 45 minutes. As Brendan just told you in the update, Tyson Alger joins us in the third hour. Tyson was down on the field. Now, I was there at Autzen. I did not rush the field. I did not make my way down. Rushing the field's a young man's game. I know, Brendan, you've talked about you've rushed the court. When you were a young, I believe, 12-year-old, did you rush the field when they beat USC? Or parents didn't let you?
Of course I did.
Oh, I didn't
I've been
know.
on that Reser Stadium field more than I could even count. Most recently,
How many field rushes you been a part of?
3 USC in 06, USC in 08, Oregon in 2016. Thank goodness Justin Herbert could not connect with Johnny Munt.
Yeah, that was a rainy game, too. That was the rainy game. That was the game that got Mark Helfrich. Well, one of the mini games that got Mark Helfrich fired. That was the Jackets game.
So that was last time, because I've been a professional media member since. You don't go storm the field if you're a professional media member. But you've been on the. Have you been on the field? Because I have not. The last game, I can tell you exactly the last game. 2016.
I stormed the field. Hold on a sec. I stormed the field as a fan. 2000, in the year 2000, or no, excuse me, 1999. Oregon beat Arizona State at home. Joey Harrington came in as a backup in that game and beat Arizona State. Last second drive. It was one of the first Joey comebacks, right? And ultimately he would become known for those comebacks. And I would storm the field. After that, tickets weren't really good enough to be field storming. And then, as you mentioned, I would be up in the press box. Now, I don't know what the rules are anymore. It's been a minute since I've been up in the press box. You used to be able to go down on the field in the last 5 minutes of the game with a media pass. And I think COVID changed it, but I think it might have come back. So I have been on the field for a handful of field stormings, but I was not as a professional member of the media, Brendan. I was not storming said field. I was running to the exit to get to the postgame show that I had to do. But I've been on the field. Alger was down there. He was down in the thick of it on the sideline as the kids stormed the field and tried to take down the goalpost. They were rebuffed. They were saying, you know what? You guys go have your fun. These goalposts are staying up.
Disappointing.
They got Illinois in less than 2 weeks. How fast do you think?
It's only like Oregon could afford it.
I know, it's true.
What? No? Oh, gotcha.
There's probably some sort of Oregon red tape, though, I would imagine. Like how long do you think it takes to put up goalposts? Do you think that's like a 2-day job?
If that.
You think so?
I mean, it's just getting them shipped to you is probably the...
Yeah, the shipping costs, the Suez Canal and all that. Are they, well, the dock workers are back, so we're okay there. Costco's going to be stocked still. Where do you get goalposts? Where do you order those from?
Wherever that company is that makes it, probably one place. They probably just send parts and stuff.
Is there a goalpost monopoly out there? Just hoping, like,
Well, it's no different than like the field turf monopoly. Like one company makes like most field turf.
Yeah.
It's like in Canada. I
Could
think.
you just imagine if you were the guy who started back in like, let's just say it's like 1987 and you started like Field Goal Posts Are Us and you got the contract. Do you just sit there on like college football Saturdays and just root for upsets? Come on, kids. Get them down. Get them down. There you go. There, we got it. Guys, Vandy, we got it. Yeah, no problem, Vanderbilt. We can get you a couple of goalposts. Put a rush on that. You know, it's a extra charge, though, when we rush the goalpost. Imagine just that's your job. You're just the guy they call when they rip down the goalpost. All right, couple of things going on in the NFL we can talk about. All right. Live in this world with me because Amari Cooper was traded to the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are good, but it looks as though, and hand up, haven't watched every Buffalo Bill game. And I know that we've got a handful of listeners who love when I talk about the Buffalo Bills and I make mistakes and they love to jump on me, and that's fine. But it feels like while the Bills 4-2, and it probably confirms it by making this move, they are missing Stephon Diggs a little bit. Not all the antics.
Did you see the?
Not all the other stuff, but that game-breaking ability.
Do you see the photo that surfaced from when they played the Texans a couple weeks ago, and they're walking doing the post-game handshakes, and Stephon Diggs just doesn't even look left or right when he walks right past Josh Allen, and someone gets a picture of him when he's just side-eyeing him, and it's like, yeah, they did not like each other. That is very well documented now. And, for what it's worth, Justin, I said for you, like, I think this was a necessary move for them. Amari Cooper doesn't really do it for me. Kind of a,
but you don't give up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little like, he's older now, right? Got a lot of miles on those, and even Devontae Adams, right? A little older too.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask. Of these three moves, which is potentially going to make the biggest impact? Oh, wait for it. The third one is a bit of a... Who's the third man?
Like, what are we talking about?
Who's the third man? Shout out the NWO. People know.
Got you.
Amari Cooper going to the Bills. Now, because the Bills are a better team than the Jets. Record shows that. They beat them. And so you upgrade a little bit there. But like you said, yeah, there's some injuries there. Devontae Adams going to the Jets. Did Devontae Adams going to the Jets after they have fired their coach... 2-4. Did Devontae Adams going to the Jets save their season? Third move. Brendan, it sounds like Russell Wilson might be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, that's not a in-season acquisition. That was an off-season acquisition. But that's a pretty significant move going from a quarterback that you are 4-2, but I think has one game over 200 yards passing, and you are not scoring touchdowns. And so... of those three moves, which one's biggest impact? Biggest impact of those, because like you said, all three of those guys have a clear resume of success, but yet all three of those guys, I don't know if they're in the twilight of their career, but they're definitely on the back nine. You know what I mean? They're on the back nine.
So
Russ is old. Mark Cooper's old.
So here's my selfish answer.
Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. It's been 5 years since they played together at Green Bay? 4 years?
2020, I think was the last year. I think it was COVID year was the last year they played together.
Aaron Rodgers won the vaccine MVP.
But remember, he was immunized.
He won the COVID MVP.
But no, like my first answer, Justin, you're gonna love. It's then this is purely selfish, but yes, because Russell Wilson is going to make George Pickens amazing. So the Steelers are just like it's just gonna click. Like Russ is probably gonna start throwing for like 250, 300 a game. It's just gonna unlock George. But no, I think Russell Wilson. You saw why Chicago gave up on Justin Fields. He is way too inconsistent as a passer. Mm-hmm. Not all passers from Ohio State are created equal. Because you look at Fields to Stroud.
I know.
Ohio State's like, hey, one quarterback to the next. You go to the pros, and it's like, Stroud doesn't have any problem throwing for 3, 4, 5 bills in a game. So I think that's a Fields issue. Now,
but you can also see, and again, like I said, I watch all the Steelers game. You watch more than you probably care to
so
because you got the fantasy whole
thing.
I do. But
I do.
You can also see why people keep giving Fields chances. Because he makes plays, and you're like Lamar Jackson's the only quarterback in the country that can make that play. Like, there was a play in the game against the Raiders where the right tackle of the Steelers clearly forgot the play call.
Yeah.
And did not block. And Fields still got a first down because he was able to sense pressure and run, and he's got athleticism
like
off the charts.
Like nobody's business. And that's
but
why
this is a game where it's about throwing and catching.
And I think
he can't throw accurately.
For sure. And I think that's why you saw Mike Tomlin say we could play both guys. And I think you could have like a wildcat package in there for Justin Fields. Mike Tomlin is proven the last couple of years, Justin. I don't care. Literally, he even said as much. We do not care.
We do not care.
He does not care how they win. Ugly, pretty, and he's like...
We say it on this show, like, we don't apologize for victories. We don't
really
apologize for winning. I ripped that off of Mike Tomlin. It was a Monday night game against a very bad Cleveland Browns team when the Steelers were Super Bowl contenders, and they won the game, and he said, we won. We're not going to apologize for it, and so I ripped it off from Mike Tomlin, but you're right. He does not care. Does not care how they win.
That is where he looks, and Mike Tomlin being a little, Belichickian, being in the sense of, like, both these guys have the ability to help me win. So maybe it's Russell Wilson is the passer, but why not have some design quarterback draws in there for, a backup who is faster than what? Probably 8 guys on the defense in a given time? 7 maybe?
I'm with you there. Can you risk the health of your backup quarterback knowing that Russell Wilson has been oft injured the last 2-3 years? Can you risk Justin Fields' health?
It's tough. Because
that's why I don't envy head coaches.
Is it still Mace in your face? Is he still a third stringer?
No. He's gone, thankfully. He was playing for somebody the other day.
Who is your
third string guy? I could not tell you.
Just in case the worst should happen.
Kyle
Allen.
Kyle Allen.
He's had some moments. I guess it's more competent than you might think.
Yeah. I don't want him playing quarterback, though, with a team that is capable of winning the division. But I'm fascinated to see because they've said that Russ is going to take most. He hasn't named him the starter, but he's taking the first team reps this week, and he's full go, 100% healthy. They're playing the Jets on Sunday Night Football. The
Steelers dealing with some injuries, man, on that offensive line,
Tell me about it.
particularly, man. My goodness,
Brendan, they got guys on that offensive line that do not know the plays.
Hey,
I don't say that as hyperbole. I watched the games. When the announcers are like, "Hey, take a look at this right tackle." He clearly doesn't know what play is being run right now.
Hey, take pride, Justin.
Doesn't know the plays.
That is not a problem for your best offensive lineman, who just so happens to be an Oregon State alum.
Well, he finally's back. He's been gone for 4 weeks.
Yes,
so
he made his debut.
To get him back.
Yeah, but he's really good. So you'll be set.
I like that, but they got some dudes that are just
Truth be told, it's really easy to notice him, Justin, because he's got hair kind of like your former friend. That is just impressive coming out of the back of a helmet, man. Like, I'm like, is Isaac Sam all the back? Oh, yeah, there's the hair, man. You just see it every time.
And I hope Devontae Adams does not make an immediate impact because obviously they play the Steelers
I think he'll be out.
Sunday.
I really do.
You don't think he's going to play?
He was already on IR, or not IR,
but was it real? Was it real?
Or he was out.
Or
sorry,
was it,
sorry, he
hey,
was out.
We can't play you because we want to trade you. Can't get you hurt because we'll get nothing for you.
That's a good question.
And you don't want to play either. So hamstring, got it. Miracle cure, go to the Jets.
It very well could be. But no, I think they just need to be like, it's like an NBA trade, right? Like, he won't play tonight. He got traded.
I hope so. Let's wait another day because I do think it's going to be a little bit like when you're hungry and there's a donut and you're like, "Boy, that really hit the spot." And then at some point, the sugar rush is going to crash. All right, we have got Make or Miss coming up in a bit. But before we get to that, I want to let you know about Cash for the Sixth Man. It's coming up here in a minute because you need to listen for the keywords each and every weekday. That's today from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. in just a few moments on the 15s for your chance to win $1,000 13 times a day. All the details at ripcityradio.com. Make or Miss next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, our good friend Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor is going to be joining the big show. He was there with me at Autzen Stadium. Now, we were not sitting together. We were on the same side of the stadium. He was a little bit higher up in the press box, but he also made his way down onto the field and had some interesting experiences, things he said he had never experienced as a sports writer before. So excited to talk to Tyson about that. Also looking ahead because Oregon's season now it's kind of coming into focus a little bit. You know what I mean? Two things happened with that win on Saturday. First off is Oregon's in the driver's seat for the Big Ten championship. Second thing is, so there's the Big Ten part of it, and then there's the playoff part of it. That's the weird part of this new college football season. Oregon now, I believe, has a get-out-of-jail-free card. As long as it's not Purdue, I think Oregon can lose one of their next 5 games, not the game against Purdue, and go 11-1, and you still go to the college football playoff and likely host a home football game in the first round. So I think they got themselves a get-out-of-jail-free card. Big Ten part of this is now the season comes down to, no offense to Purdue, Maryland, or Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, both on the road, and then the Huskies come into Autzen Stadium. Those are your 3 games. That's your season right there. You win those 3 games. You take care of business against the team you're supposed to. And again, as an Oregon fan, I've had my heart broken in November more times than I care to admit. So I am not counting any eggs before said eggs hatch. But with that win, it clears up some things, at least for the second half of the season, in both the playoff and with the Big Ten. So we'll talk to Tyson about that. We got some stuff we saw on the internet as well. Right now, though, let's dive into Make or Miss.
All right, firing up Make or Miss here on a Wednesday. Oh, yes, I was telling Justin about this earlier. Every Dallas loss pushes Bill Belichick closer to Jerry Jones's arms.
I'm torn on this.
Never wanted someone to get fired more badly than Mike McCarthy.
Than Mike McCarthy? I mean,
he was ran out, rightfully so, by Aaron Rodgers, who's like, you were done. And what has he done in Dallas?
Okay, was it rightfully so, though? They did win a Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl, and neither has won a Super Bowl since. I'd
say Matt LaFleur was an upgrade, without a doubt.
But they didn't win a Super Bowl?
I mean, we're going to give him credit for having that's like us sitting back here saying North Carolina shouldn't fire Mac Brown because he has a national title.
No, but what I'm saying is Aaron Rodgers with Mike McCarthy, Super Bowl championship ring. Aaron Rodgers in 2 MVP seasons with Matt LaFleur did not win jack. They didn't win jack. Also, by the way, Mike McCarthy with Aaron Rodgers also was in the NFC Championship game against Seattle. Now, maybe that's what ultimately got Mike McCarthy out, because I was at that game. One of the most unbelievable, non-Oregon games I've ever been to. That one. That NFC Championship game between the Seahawks and the Packers, where the Seahawks were dead in the water and Aaron Rodgers could not miss. And then all of a sudden, it's like, we're going to run a trick play. We're going to run a fake field goal to a touchdown. It was nuts.
That was when they scored 14 points or something in 90 seconds.
It was insanity.
Yeah.
It was complete insanity.
They were done. The Packers had that one wrapped up.
Brendan, it was over. The Packers were going back to the Super Bowl. And Pete Carroll pulled every trick out of his bag. So that probably was one of the beginning of the end of Mike McCarthy. I don't know. I just think didn't Matt LaFleur have Aaron Rodgers in 2 MVP seasons?
He did.
And didn't get to a Super Bowl.
One year he ran up against the GOAT, the greatest to ever play. So Aaron Rodgers, they were home field advantage. Tom Brady went to Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
And beat the dog out of Aaron Rodgers.
2020?
Yes.
Season? Yeah.
Then Tom Brady said, New Orleans Saints, you won the division. Sean Payton, Drew Brees, you guys lost 3 games all year. Yeah, I'm going to go into the Superdome and beat you too. So, again, that was tough because Matt LaFleur's best team probably got beat by Brady's last gasp. So that takes away a good year. Then the whole Devontae Adams things happens. Then, you start to have the organization start to realize they want to move towards Jordan Love because they have a younger head coach, which makes sense because they're like, when they hired Matt LaFleur, I think it was like, hey, this might push out Aaron.
And it definitely did.
Over time.
Yeah.
But right away, then they go, oh. Well, kind of one of those like, oh, bleep, but in a good way, like, oh, this guy can actually coach.
I know.
Like, I think we need, and then it's like, oh, we got a new quarterback coming in, and look at all these new young receiver. I mean, Green Bay is young now. They are the young, up-and-coming team, and, I got to give them credit because the vibes are high in Green Bay right now, man. Jordan Love, that whole unit.
I agree. And I bet they didn't think, hey, Detroit's going to be in our way.
No.
Or Sam Darnold and the Vikings might be in our way. But either way, let's get back to Mike McCarthy real quick. I always get not nervous. I'm hesitant to kind of casually talk about guys getting fired. Now, I know, look, they get paid. It's also part of the job you sign up for. As a head coach, you just know you are one eccentric owner away from being on a TV set. But it just... to so casually, like, oh, this guy should be, I don't know. It's always been something of mine. That being said, yeah, you take the job with the Cowboys, you take the job playing for Jerry Jones or coaching for Jerry Jones, you know the drill. You know that the highs could be incredibly high, but if you lose, you shall be thrown right under the bus. And you talk about vibes. Vibes are low in Dallas. They're so low in Dallas that Jerry Jones is threatening to fire radio hosts.
It's true.
Threatening to fire radio hosts.
So since Justin making, so they were, Mike McCarthy's last playoff year with Green Bay was 2016, and they got absolutely throttled by Atlanta in the NFC Championship game. So they made the NFC Championship game the year the Falcons were amazing and lost the Patriots. Since then, he has had 2 wild card losses and a divisional loss. The wild card loss was to his former team, the Green Bay Packers, last year. So that's going to hurt.
In Dallas,
yes,
right? Yeah.
In Dallas. So how he survived that.
I think that's the Cowboys' problem is they keep losing them at home.
Well, that, and then the 2 previous years, back-to-back losses to the San Francisco 49ers in 2021 and 2022, wild card and divisional. So...
I mean, it is something that Jerry Jones said in that interview that everybody forgot about because it was way overshadowed by him saying, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I'm just going to talk to the fans. And if you don't like it, I'll find somebody else, and threaten to fire that guy. But there was one part of it where it's like, one guy wins the Super Bowl. Is everybody else an idiot? So like, I kind of see his point, but yeah, vibes are low.
Well,
vibes are low in Dallas.
And here's the thing, Justin. He has just as many playoff appearances in Dallas as Jason Garrett.
There you go.
So they held on to Jason Garrett for a long time. And that's the thing. Usually, Jerry is not knee-jerk. He hangs on to his coaches for a minute unless it's who's the one he fired? Was it and everyone was all up in their feelings until Jimmy won them a couple of Super Bowls. Oh, when he fired
Tom Landry.
Yes.
Yeah, the legend of all legends of the Dallas Cowboys.
And that's basically been like the only person that Jerry Jones has ever fired dramatically. Like basically, like even when oh gosh, help me out here. Parcells, Wade Phillips. I mean, all these other guys. And it's kind of just like, yeah, they're done, all good. Like we're still gotta protect the star, right?
Yes.
Gotta keep the Cowboy logo going. But no, Justin, I think it's done. It's over. You've paid Dak, you've paid CD, you've paid Micah Parsons. That is a core that is good enough to win you that division and take you to Super Bowls. Now, why they can't seem to get the rest of it figured out, and then you throw in the fact that you have all the benefits of being the Cowboys. And I think, Justin, it's not even going to be the Eagles or the Giants that really bother Jerry this year. He's going to look over and go, the Commanders are doing what with my former defensive coordinator that I let walk to keep you, Mike?
That's a good point.
Dan Quinn, man, is in his division, Justin.
Let's go and fast forward this into a hypothetical. Let's take Bill Belichick out of it, but just for a second, because you'll understand for the hypothetical. We know that the New York Jets job is open. They're not going to keep interim coach. So that job is going to be open. Let's say Cowboys have a bad season. They don't make the playoffs. Or if they do, they barely make the wild card and lose. And the Cowboys ultimately fire Mike McCarthy. What's a better job? Jets with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, or Cowboys with Dak and CeeDee Lamb, money tied up? What's a better job?
I think it will always be the Cowboys.
Think so?
Because you have to look at it this way. You're like, oh, New York. Okay, you have the same amount of media in Dallas as you do New York. That is no different for the Cowboys, how big of a brand they are.
Yeah, you're right. For the press pool and all that stuff.
Exactly. So if you're looking to be like the star of the star, I'd much rather, I think you look at Dak being, like, Aaron Rodgers is old. Devontae Adams is kind of old. CD, Dak, and Micah Parsons are not old, Just. They're a little hurt right now, but they're not old. And it's still like, tell me this, Justin. You'd say all the time, we love to joke and go, NFL GM's only 32. It's only 32 jobs in the NFL. Just, there's only one Cowboys. Kind of like there's only one Steelers. Kind of like there's only one. And that's why I think you
also
saw.
New York.
Well, and I think that's why you saw, I don't know if you saw the clip that went viral this week with Gerard Mayo, the Patriots head coach, on a podcast. But someone kind of asked him, they're like, oh, why was the roster so bad? And he's like, oh, And that's kind of all he said. And it's like, yeah, you're Gerard Mayo. You're a position coach. You're not going to turn down the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
5-time Super Bowl, or 6 times? 6? Yeah, Brady has
Patriots
7.
have 6, yeah.
Yeah.
Same as the Steelers.
Yeah, Brady has 7. Sorry.
Brady's got 7.
6 times, like, you're not going to turn that down. So I think no matter what, Justin, you objectively put the Cowboys or the Jets in front of just an unbiased head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, take the money aside, just the clout of being a Cowboys head coach. You might not last as long, but I think you last even the same amount in New York. But no, I think all bets aside, maybe Jerry just goes the other way, Justin. I mean, after last year, I think the hottest name that has not been hired is probably Detroit's offensive coordinator, who has looked Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson, yeah, I was like trying to think what his...
He was a finalist last year, and it's like, nah, I want to stay. And
that's right.
They just put up 45 on. Like, it's always, in the NFL, Justin, if it's not the old coaches, it's, hey, go hire the new hot coordinator, right? And it's like, if I were to guess, like, that Lions coordinator's going to be on the short list for a lot of jobs.
NFL thing. What's harder to do? Drafting a quarterback or picking a head coach? What is a harder, because you talk about you've got these hot coordinators, and we see some that are terrific hires. Terrific hire. Kyle Shanahan, terrific hire. He was coordinator at Atlanta, terrific hire. Some, basically every Belichick disciple, not so much. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's hard to, and then you see these quarterbacks and you're like, I said I liked CJ Stroud better than Bryce Young. I in no way, shape, or form thought that CJ Stroud was going to be able to do what he did as a rookie. I based mine off of watching him play against Georgia and seeing that Georgia defense get carved up by CJ Stroud in that semifinal game. But I never thought he was going to do, like, there was no CJ Stroud is going to rewrite the rookie record books, and that this will be a draft the Carolina Panthers will regret for a decade, which it is.
Okay,
picking a coach or drafting a quarterback. What's harder in the NFL?
Picking a coach, because I think it is. And to that point, like, you look
That's
at,
pretty
like,
close though, right?
It is, but you look like the Texans with DeMeco Ryans. Imagine if they didn't nail that. Like, to this point, Justin, after this year, just
did they nail DeMeco Ryans, or did they draft CJ Stroud?
Well, here we're going to find out, because if you are an NFL GM looking for a head coach, Justin, I'm asking Justin Myers, is your first call not to the Texans offensive coordinator who has been there since Stroud's been there and basically lit the NFL on fire these first 2 years? You've been like, hey, you came in and you guys hit the ground running. DeMeco Ryans, the defensive head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm an NFL GM, one of my first calls is like, hey, you did it with CJ Stroud. Let's go get you a CJ Stroud and do it again, kind of a thing. So easier said than done. Sure.
You know what's funny, though, is like in that same spirit, nobody has been better than the Chiefs the last 6-7 years of football.
You're going to throw out Matt Nagy, aren't you?
Well, I'm saying none of their coordinators seem to be getting hired as head coaches.
Well, Matt Nagy had a bad run, man.
Eric Bieniemy went to the Commanders and then got shipped right out of town.
I don't know where he is now.
I think is he Colorado now?
No. Actually, I don't
Eric
know.
Bieniemy?
Oh, he's the offensive coordinator for UCLA.
UCLA. I knew I saw him on the sideline somewhere.
Did you know they're in LA? Does he know?
Still funny. Still funny. And
Clearly
then
an offensive coordinator.
who's the defense? Is it Pelissero? Is that the guy for the Chiefs?
Oh, Spagnuolo.
Spagnuolo.
He's been there for so long.
But isn't that nuts, though? Because we're just talking about how you want to go out and you want to, who's the best team, and then you get their coordinator. They did it with Philadelphia a couple years ago with Gannon and Steichen. Was it Steichen?
Yes, it was. It was Shane Steichen and Rich Gannon.
You got those guys. They did it with the 49ers, with DeMeco Ryans. Nobody's raiding the Chiefs.
I just
That's
wonder.
fascinating to me. And probably because it's one guy. It's because you can't get Andy Reid and you can't get Patrick Mahomes.
And I think it goes along the lines of Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia with the Patriots, right? Trying to chase that Tom Brady greatness.
Oh, and Romeo Crennel and
Bill O'Brien, I'll give a pass. He's kind of made it.
well, and what's his name from Charlie Weiss? We can keep going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you can again. People were
like Vrabel.
Yes, Vrabel. You know, and I
Vrabel
even give
was okay.
Vrabel a pass. Vrabel was solid, man. He kind of got a raw deal in Tennessee, but I like Vrabel. Talk about someone else who I think could be coaching.
Did they ever go to the playoffs?
But to your point on Spagnuolo, Justin, I just wonder, and this is kind of just funny how the world works, right? So, Justin, the one time that Steve Spagnuolo was a head coach was when he was head coach of the then St. Louis Rams from 2009 to 2011. Justin, I don't know if you know this, the St. Louis Rams' best player during that stretch
Steve Jackson?
was this running back from Oregon State named Steven Jackson.
Of course I know that.
Well, you know, I didn't know if you're like, well, it could have been Torrey Holt, could have been Isaac Bruce. I mean, there's still some dudes there at the time. But
I know we've talked about it before, and obviously I am on one side of the Oregon State rivalry. I was in awe of Steven Jackson the moment I saw him carry a football in 2001, I think was his freshman year, and I was just like, that's different. That's different there.
No,
I've seen a lot of good players in this world of football.
And let me ask you this, Justin.
That guy's different.
Let me ask you this. If you were an NFL head coach, okay, and you had Steven Jackson in his prime, and I'm talking 2009 is in his prime, baby.
Yeah. In an era where they still ran the football.
You're telling me you'd win 10 games in 3 years?
How's my defense? Who's my quarterback?
Sam Bradford.
Mm-hmm. Well, there
Young
we go.
Sam Bradford.
Done and done. Now we know.
But to that point, I guess I look back at it as like Steve Spagnuolo, I don't think will ever take a head coaching job because he had such a bad experience with St. Louis, where he Justin was the defensive coordinator for the Giants when they won their Super Bowl, beat the New England Patriots, the undefeated Patriots in 2007. So he got the Rams job off of being Coughlin's defensive coordinator and making same thing right now with the Chiefs, where it's like indispensable dude for Tom Coughlin, indispensable dude for Andy Reid. Then he took the Rams, and man, it was bad. And he worked his way back into the being a DC again. And I just wonder if he's like, Justin, I got 3 rings as an assistant. Why would I ever leave?
You want to hear something? We'll wrap it up on this.
For sure.
We've talked about how maybe Jamarcus Russell might have been the worst contract in NFL history.
Did you find one that's worse?
Sam Bradford's second year, $30 million guaranteed in 2011.
Oh my goodness.
Sam Bradford.
But he was
I think that was the last big contract. His
But you almost have to tell the kids, Justin.
$65 million. $65 million for Sam Bradford.
In his defense, and I'll say, and real quickly, Justin, in his defense, you were at Oregon at the time. I was still here. Sam Bradford was so freaking good at Oklahoma.
He was good.
So good at Oklahoma.
Hey, don't forget Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Congratulations to the winners yesterday, each and every Tuesday on Rip City Drive. We are keeping it Rip City red hot and rolling. Rip City rolling. What am I talking about? Anyways, we're giving away tickets to Blazers. You can also get single game tickets right now at trailblazers.com. It is Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here on Rip City Radio. Stuff we saw on the internet next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up hour number 2. Stuff I saw on the internet. Usually this becomes a topic where Brendan and I just talk about food. Because I find every time I browse the internet looking for interesting, fun, trending topics, I always find something about food.
Food being more expensive?
We don't need to dive into that, but it's a real thing out there. I get it. I try not to eat fast food anymore. Brendan eats plenty enough for both of us, which is interesting in this sense. Brendan, have you seen the Krispy Kreme McDonald's collab that is going on? Are you aware of Krispy Kreme and McDonald's collaborating?
I am not. No.
So apparently, they're starting it in a little test in Chicago area, but by 2016, which a year and some change away, you will be able to not only get yourself a McDonald's breakfast that might include a sausage McMuffin with egg, which is their best breakfast sandwich, or get yourself an egg McMuffin, not a bad second place. But by 2026, Brendan, McDonald's is going to be offering also up to 3 Krispy Kremes. You could get.
You needed more proof that the world was owned by like 8 companies. This is it.
I know. So they will be offering at breakfast a box of 6 original glazed.
I'd probably get 2 of those. Not gonna lie.
2 of the box 6 packs.
Yeah. You know, like this would be very dangerous because it is the best donut ever created.
Okay, I was just going to ask that. So you got the original glazed, you got the chocolate with iced and sprinkles, and then you've got the chocolate iced, which is cream filled. So I know your preferences when it comes to Girl Scout cookies, which we shall have that discussion coming up in February. But you are just glazed donut, just hot glazed Krispy Kreme donut. That's
like,
your goat.
It can even be a day old. Dude.
I'm not even mad about it.
Yeah, let me put it in the microwave for 8 seconds, and it's just as delicious as when it came out. Yeah, I mean, I can. It's one of those things that if you put a box of Krispy Kremes in front of me, Justin, like I would eat them until I had a stomach ache. Like they are that good. They are.
I can have of those the original glaze because there's not much heft to them. There's not much heft.
They're light and fluffy.
I think I could have 2. And then I would be like, I think I'm done now. I want a third, but I know that a third shall not do me well. You're at a dozen? You could pop a dozen of those bad boys? You just said you'd buy 2. You could pop a dozen.
How many hours you give me? Give me the course of a day?
I'll give you 2 hours.
Okay.
I'll give you 2 hours. Like, show's over. You drop in and get.
I could do half of those 6.
You drop in, get a dozen at 9:08 or whatever. Whenever you drive by Krispy Kreme, and before you lay down to take your, because clearly you eat 6 donuts, you're gonna spike. You're gonna spike, and then you're gonna crash.
Yep.
Before you lay down to sleep for 6 hours in the middle of the day.
It's true.
You can eat 6 of them.
Yeah, I think
I believe it.
In a true like hungry. Yeah, I could probably do at least 6.
Do you think they're going to be any good considering that they're going to be at McDonald's?
That worries me.
Yeah.
Like, what if they're frozen? What if, they probably will be. Like, how are you going to get them to all these different McDonald's? So,
well, now
I have.
We know that McDonald's has got deep fryers because they make the most delicious fries in the history of the world.
I don't think you can deep fry a donut in the same oil you do fries and chicken. And
you don't think it's the same oil?
Well, Justin, have you ever worked in a...
I have not. I'm asking. I was not being snarky there. I don't know.
For someone who did, like you have your chicken in one fryer, you have your fries in another fryer, you have...
Is that for cleanliness or is it 2 different oils?
Cleanliness and then food allergies. Have to remember allergies because there are people who are going to be, allergic.
People are allergic to chicken? Oh, is it the gluten stuff?
All that, flour and, so yes, like you'd have some people who are like, I want French fries, but I don't want to have the flour and the milk and all that stuff that goes into the oil, it's
for the fried chicken.
Again,
see, to me, it sounds delicious.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
But I put fried chicken in there, and then I just take the fries, put them in that fried chicken.
But
grease.
no, that was what I learned as a youth. Justin was, hey, gotta be on it with the oils because there are some people who have more health concerns than others.
It's been a minute since I've watched a Bar Rescue, but I was obsessed with Bar Rescue, and it feels like
at one point I was really into that show. It kind of faded for me a bit.
It feels like. There's a handful of things that happen in every crappy bar, but one of the consistents is they never change the oil where
it's
the
always
deep
like
frying
black.
stuff.
It's terrible. And yeah,
It freaks me out because I love fried food at the bar. I do. I love chicken wings. I love jalapeno poppers. I love cheese sticks.
You're a good mozzarella stick guy.
I love them all. I do. I love them. Just give me a bevy of whatever you
So-
deep
so
fry back
you're
there.
that
But
guy-
but then I worry because I watch Bar Rescue, even though the bars that I go to, they're good bars.
So
But,
you're
like,
that guy that would go and you'd crush like the appetizer platter that's got like the jalapeno poppers, the mozzarella sticks, the onion rings, the French fries, the tater tots.
I think we got 30 seconds here. So what we used to do in college and a little bit after college. I'm sure you're aware Applebee's half price apps.
Yes, sir.
What was it, after 9, I think? From like 9 to midnight, you would get half price apps. You can't get the sampler platter, but you know what you could do? Create your own sampler platter. And so there'd be like 4 of us.
Amazing.
We would all order like 2 apps because they're half price. So we'd have 8 apps just there, and you'd create your own little app buffet. Did it all the time.
When was the last time you went to an Applebee's?
Well, I can't remember.
I couldn't even tell you the last time I went, but it's not on like I just there's not one close to me, but like
Yeah, I can't remember. I'd ride for the neighborhood though.
yeah, there was one in Corvallis, man. They got students in by having the $1 tiki drinks. Oh,
yeah.
my goodness.
They're back now. I saw like the $1 Long Islands or whatever.
How they could afford that.
Not for me though. All right, coming up, we got hour number 3. Tyson now just going to join us. A whole bunch more coming up next. 620 Rips.
8 a.m. on a Wednesday. Brendan Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. The Yankees took a 2-0 lead over the Cleveland Guardians with a 6-3 victory in New York last night. The series now shifts to Cleveland. Meanwhile, the Mets and Dodgers will have Game 3 tonight with those two teams tied at 1 apiece. And in the NFL, a couple trades yesterday. Devontae Adams, officially a Jet, joining Aaron Rodgers for a third-round pick that could become a second if conditions are met. Meanwhile, the Buffalo Bills acquire Amari Cooper from the fledgling Cleveland Browns for future draft picks as well. Coming up here in about 20 minutes, we're going to catch up with Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor. Busy weekend for the corridor. A lot going on. You got Hour 3, Rip City Mornings on a Wednesday.
Hey, welcome back to Hour 3, everybody. Hopefully you're all having a fantastic Wednesday, as Brendan just told you. Looking forward to having a conversation with Tyson Alger. He was there. He was on the field as kids and adults alike, because I saw that field storming from my seats. I did not go down anywhere near the field, but I saw the field storming at Autzen Stadium, and there's a whole lot more than just students on that field. Just say that. But Tyson was there, so we'll get his thoughts on all of the ins and the outs of what went on down there. Is putting 12 men on the field on purpose cheating? Is it gamesmanship? If that happens to any other team other than Ohio State and or Alabama, Texas, Michigan, you name it, blue blood program, if that happens to any other team, is the NCAA really working all that hard to change that rule? Now, I get it. It's a very easy rule to change. It's this, you go snap of a finger and say, all right, 12 men on the field is now a dead ball penalty. You can, as an offense, you can decline it and take, because if it's beneficial for the offense to have the clock run with 12 men on the field, you could then just decline the penalty, keep the clock moving, or it's a dead ball penalty, and we go back to where the ball was snapped, and you put the time back on the clock. Although, Brennan, I don't think, is there a penalty right now? And I guess I don't know the rules enough. There's not a penalty where they put time back on the clock. They will, like, if they call a timeout and go, 4 seconds ticked off, timekeeper, please reset the game clock. We've all seen that. There's not a penalty in football where they put time back on the clock. 12 men on the field, I guess you would have to recognize it and then blow the play dead like a false start.
They'll give you an untimed down. If it's a like a game can't end on a defensive penalty.
Yes, you're right.
So you can get an untimed down.
So we'll get an untimed down. But there's not a penalty where, like, there's 12 men on the field, 4 seconds ran off, please reset the game. Like, that doesn't really happen. So I don't know what they're gonna do there. I don't know how they're gonna fix that. Unless instantly you recognize it at the snap, then you, like a false start, you blow the play dead. And I guess that's what you could do to fix it. But I was thinking about, like, there's not really a penalty other than, like you said, the end of the half or end of the game where you're like, one untimed down. But that's not putting time back on the clock. That's just giving an untimed down. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. We're halfway through the season. All right, we're halfway through the season. Oregon undefeated. Oregon in the driver's seat in the Big Ten. And far from a lock, but let's just say Oregon, probably the most comfortable team in the country in terms of their playoff ability. Is there a team that's more comfortable right now than Oregon in terms of they are going to make the playoffs?
Texas. Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
But Texas plays Georgia this week. You play Georgia and then you lose another game. You know what I mean?
They won't.
I tend to agree with you.
Texas is the best team in the country. Oregon's number 2, but Texas is the best team in the country.
You think they're beating Georgia this weekend?
Yeah.
Like, significant?
With what they did to Oklahoma, who was ranked, Oklahoma was not a pushover. They were ranked, and they beat them. Yeah, they beat them silly. Like that was in Oklahoma, was it not? Well, no, Cotton Bowl.
No, it was at the Cotton Bowl.
Sorry, yeah. But still, neutral site, not DKR. Where is the game? Georgia, Texas.
I believe it's in Austin. So this game's in Austin.
Yeah, I'm taking the Longhorns, man.
I agree with you. I'm trying to pull up. I almost went to the Big 12.
And I'm not saying
Texas
that,
is no longer in the Big 12.
Classic. But no, I think Oregon easily moved into number 2. I think Oregon's the second best team in the country. Case for number 1, sure, especially with how good Boise's getting.
And I know there's some Oregon fans in their feels. Listen, I was there. The game was awesome. I don't care about being ranked number 1. I don't care about being ranked number 1. I care about making the playoff and getting that first round bye and winning the Big Ten. Yeah, you can rank Texas number 1 all you want, and there's a case to be made, right? Texas went to Michigan and beat Michigan, beat Oklahoma on a neutral site. Also, Texas has not played a close game. I guess that 36-13 to Mississippi State is their closest game. You cannot deny what happened with Idaho and Boise State. You can't just erase that as much as you want to erase that from your memory. You cannot deny that for Oregon. So Texas is home against Georgia. What's the spread? What are we looking at here? This
is probably a 5-point favorite, if I were to guess.
3.5. Texas 3.5-point faves in this game. Yeah, you're right. Texas gets past Georgia. They're a lock because they go to Vanderbilt, which Vanderbilt won 2 weeks in a row now. They go to Vanderbilt. Could you imagine if Vanderbilt does it again? Beats a team that just beat Georgia? I don't think they will, but you didn't think they were going to beat Alabama.
That's fair. That's fair. Other than Texas, no. The answer to your question is no.
Yeah, so you got Texas goes to Vanderbilt, Florida at home, to Arkansas, Kentucky at home, and then Texas A&M on the road in a rivalry game.
The only game in that stretch that really concerns me is Georgia.
Clearly, because that's don't sleep on Arkansas on the road. Again, just like I would say for Oregon, don't sleep on going to Wisconsin. Right? Wisconsin figured some things out this week.
But you are going to sleep on going to Purdue though. So there are teams
Luckily, I don't throw passes or catch balls or make blocks, so I can look well past Purdue. Let's hope that the 85 scholarship players who are all making a lot of NIL, let's hope they're not looking past Purdue. But yeah, other than Texas, Oregon's got to be the most comfortable in terms of making the playoff than any team in the country. Because if you do lose a game down the stretch that is not Purdue, 11-1, you're in. You're in. You may not go to the Big Ten championship. We went over those tiebreakers, but what happens if Ohio State beats Penn State? So then you would have, and then Penn State would have to lose to Michigan or something. I don't know.
I mean, Penn State's got to be feeling pretty good about where they are too, right?
The thing is, they still have that Ohio State game that's kind of looming. But you're right.
And again, Penn State can never win the big game. So again, I'm not going to believe in them until they do. So Penn State every year, the last handful of years under James Franklin, hey, we'll go 10-2. But we're going to lose to Michigan and Ohio State every year.
So Penn State's got the win at USC.
It's been a long time since the Big Ten championships under Joe Pa. Been a long time for.
So Penn State goes to Wisconsin this week.
Could be an intriguing game.
That is. Why is ESPN not putting up a point spread on that game?
Penn State, and maybe it's the uniforms thing for me, Justin. Penn State has just had such a overrated mentality for me for the last couple of years. How many years now we've been hearing, this is what James Franklin's going to do in the Big Ten. That's what James Franklin's going to do. Now he's got this. Now, couldn't do it with Saquon. I guess.
Well, they couldn't do it again. They did it against everybody except Michigan and Ohio State, which has always been the knock against the Big Ten.
Right. And I shouldn't say that because they did make a Rose Bowl with Saquon and USC in the famous Darnold game.
Yeah.
So, but I think that was the last time Penn State went to a, quote, New Year's, what we used to consider the New Year's Six.
So, all right. So Penn State goes to Wisconsin. They're off this week. They go to Wisconsin next week. Then they
explain the spread. That would explain the spread.
That's why. My apologies to ESPN. That was my bad.
Would explain it.
Then they get Ohio State at home, November 2nd. That's going to be a whale of a game. Washington, they get at home. They go to Purdue. That's going to be a 25-point spread. At Minnesota. So that would be my biggest concern if I'm Penn State. Lose to Ohio State, which Ohio State will be favored in that game. You lose to Ohio State, and then you got to go to Minnesota on November the 23rd. Now, I know they're all built for cold weather and stuff, but you could get a blizzard. And Minnesota's got to win against USC. Like, Minnesota's capable. But, yeah, I would say Penn State's feeling a whole lot more comfortable because you could lose to Ohio State and beat Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland. You're in.
I'm just happy.
And if they lose to Ohio State, then Ohio State gets a rematch in the Big Ten championship, and boom, 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 Big Ten's got 3 teams in the playoff.
I mean, I'll say this, Justin. I'm really happy about the. If there's one positive side effect about the Big Ten getting bigger, you go back and look. Tell me this, Justin. Should you be in the Rose Bowl if you lost to Michigan and Ohio State, and the only reason you went to the Rose Bowl is because those 2 teams went to the playoff?
I know.
You're like, come on, man. You don't belong in the Rose Bowl if you lost to 2 teams in your own conference that just because they made the playoff, well, we'll just elevate you up to the Rose Bowl.
How about this? You ready for, and again, it's October, and it's a fool's errand to be trying to play out the rest of the season. Let's talk about the Indiana Hoosiers real quick. Talk about the Indiana Hoosiers,
your boy. Yeah.
Indiana gets Nebraska this week at home. That's they are 6.5-point favorites against Nebraska. They get Washington at home. If they beat Nebraska, Indiana will be favored in that game. You go to Michigan State. Michigan State stinks. You get Michigan at home. Then you got to go to the Horseshoe. Then you get Purdue. What happens? What happens if Indiana beats Nebraska, beats Washington, beats Michigan State, beats Michigan, loses to Ohio State, beats Purdue? They have 1 loss. Penn State loses to Ohio State, runs the rest of their table. They have 1 loss. So you would have, and let's say Oregon, God forbid, drops the game to Michigan. And you could potentially have Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana all sitting at 11-1. Do all 4 teams make the playoff? Do you think
possible? Certainly possible. I'm not going to say
because I think the Big Ten's better than the SEC right now.
Yeah,
the SEC's got the best team, but I think the Big Ten.
I don't know. It's too hard to say at the moment. I mean, I think 4 would be a lot from one conference. I think 3 is going to kind of be the max.
Well, if you ask the Big Ten and the SEC, they're like, we should both just be given 4 automatic berths.
Well, then you're asking
each.
The really wrong person because you're talking to someone who doesn't give a bleep about the Big Ten or the ACC.
I know, but I'm just saying because remember they were having the conversations. Should we get more automatic berths? It was like,
I remember the conversations, Justin. I do. Who could forget?
But yeah, could you imagine if these all find a way to work themselves out, and I don't think you're going to see a situation where you have 4 11-1 teams, but you might. You might. Because they don't play each other. All right.
Yeah, keep an eye on Indiana, man. They just continue to win.
That's what I'm saying.
And they're not ranked either.
They're still not ranked.
Wow.
And their schedule is Nebraska, Washington, both at home, at Michigan State, Michigan at home, go to the Horseshoe. Tough
one. They
one.
picked up a rank. They're 16th, though.
Oh.
Yeah, they picked up.
I missed that one. My bad.
No, you're good.
They are 16.
I was going to say 6-0. Come on,
6-0 in the Big Ten. Yeah, they're ranked. And then they finish at. I don't see many losses on that schedule. I see 1 in Ohio State. Maybe Washington gets them. Maybe Nebraska gets them this week. We'll see.
Michigan State won't get them, so we're good.
Michigan State's got, I think, 1 let's screw up the Big Ten win, I think, in them. John Smith.
They have lost 3 straight after starting 3-0,
yeah.
So I'm curious to see who that is, Justin. Who will it be for them?
All right, we know that coming up for us, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor, he joins the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. Right, it was billed as a classic heading into the game. Maybe the biggest game in the history of Autzen Stadium. It lived up to the hype and then some. And then this Oregon-Ohio State game, well, it just keeps becoming the gift that keeps on giving. Where does Oregon sit now in the college football playoff? Should Oregon be number one over Texas? Is Dan Lanning a genius or is he a cheating SOB? Joining us now, our good friend from the I-5 corridor. He was there, like me, in Autzen Stadium. He was down on the field. I was not. I was high above, watching the crowd storm the field. This guy was in it. He crowd surfed with a guy dressed as Batman and also got hit by a beer and survived to tell the tale. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor now joins us on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excited about this Purdue game coming up on Friday. It'll finally be nice to see a game with a little bit of excitement and storyline, and just finally kicking this season off because to this point, what interesting has happened so far, right?
I feel like like these college football coaches, Tyson. Maybe we should be focusing on what is ahead instead of what is behind. So let's do. You want to do a 18-minute breakdown of Purdue? Let's start with the quarter. I'm just kidding.
I spent all night going over their route trees.
I talked about this a ton on Monday. Obviously, it leaked into the show yesterday. Not surprising. Continued about it into today. This, in terms of a game that has layers upon layers of talking points, as I kind of alluded to in the intro, right? There's the big picture stuff. Has Oregon arrived? What this significance of this game means for Oregon as a program. Then there's the Big Ten. Then there's the playoff. The Heisman race suddenly back in with Dylan Gabriel and a couple of other injuries. The 12 men on the field. The officiating in the first quarter on that drive. Will Howard taking the slide. So many. I don't know if I can remember a game that has so many layers of talking points as this game was on Saturday.
Yeah, it was, especially after coming off of the field after interviews and just having all of that fresh in your mind. I don't think I've ever been more overwhelmed at the moment that I opened up a Word document to start writing my game story for the night. It was just, I was texting with Shane Hoffman at the time, and I was just what do I start with? Because if you were actually trying to, I think most of my game stories range between 800 to 1,200 words. And if you were actually to try to pack everything that happened in that game with the context, with what it means going forward, you guys would still be reading, because it was, from a big picture scale, there was so much on the line in terms of playoffs. I think had Oregon won by any score, we'd probably be sitting here talking about that was an all-timer just because of what it meant and the fact that it was Ohio State. But when you get down to it, that was an intense football game, and it's one that we've seen the Ducks lose a couple of times over the last couple of years. That scene was incredible, and I think you probably would have gotten a similar scene had Oregon beaten Washington 2 years ago, but they just weren't able to finish that deal. And for them to be able to have all of this come together on a Saturday with all of the auxiliary stuff and then to pull off a win like that, I've tried to wait a couple days to give it a little bit of time, but I've never covered anything remotely close to that in my time on the Oregon beat.
Well, and kind of the auxiliary stuff, I think, is of all the extra point, forcing them to chase the points where they missed it, and then also had an interception taken off the board that led to a direct 7 points. All of that happened in this game, and you're not supposed to win those games against the number 2 team in the country when all of those things happen. And to me, Tyson, the biggest takeaway was that Oregon, maybe for the first time in program history, and this might be some hyperbole, but has the guys, has the dudes, has the depth to overcome missing extra points, missing chip shot field goals, getting players kicked out, having players injured. They finally have got, because I know the Thibodeau didn't play 3 years ago. Yeah, but Oregon played a near-perfect game at the Horseshoe that day. You were there. This was not Oregon's best effort. Yeah. This was not their best execution. Still, though, found a way to win. To me, that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I'm right there with you because like if you kind of look at some of Oregon's like past history, like as you said, it's almost like they had to pitch the perfect game, or when they went into that national title game, you were just hoping that like Marcus Mariota was like legitimately a superhuman, and I think Oregon played its best game of the year against Ohio State, but I hate the cliched post-game coach talk, but like I think they still had a ton of things that they could improve, and this was one of those games where Ohio State went and they scored on their first drive, and Oregon is able to like answer right back. And it was just like I don't feel like that they're having to play catch up in this game. I feel like that they're going to be able to go swing for swing. And especially just kind of watching like the front seven, like watching guys like Derek Harmon just like plow through the line and like rip the ball out of the running back's hands. It's just like little things like that where you're just like, man, like Oregon has some dudes that they just like didn't have like the last few times that they've played teams of this caliber. And, obviously that should be expected with the emphasis of recruiting and transfer portal and all those things that we've talked about ad nauseum in the last couple off seasons. But it's a different thing to actually like see that start showing up on the field and kind of see the fruits of that labor, because like Oregon has been the talk of the off season the last 2 years in a row, and the reason for that is because of what can happen on Saturdays, and the Ducks definitely had that this weekend.
Tyson, the best part about being able to do a show every day and fill 3 hours every day, and being the fact that I am the only host on this show. We got super producer Brendan, but I get to be the host. I get to change my mind, and I get to change my opinion because it's my show and I get to do that. That's the best part. I was a little critical of Dillon Gabriel. Especially after a couple of interceptions. Also, especially after that some miscues in that Boise game. Now looking back, and again, maybe being a prisoner of the moment. But I talked about this. With Chad Doing the other day. This is why you bring in Dillon Gabriel. This game right here. You don't bring him in to put 60 points up on Idaho. You don't bring him in to have a comfortable win against Boise State. You bring this guy in to win this game at this moment, and at the biggest moment in Oregon football, maybe even Oregon football regular season history, their quarterback had the game of his life. And somebody will argue that what he did last year for Oklahoma against Texas, maybe, but 341, 23-34, 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground. And like you said, Tyson, with all the guys, I think for Oregon fans, at least from my experience being in the stadium, even when Ohio State takes the lead in the fourth quarter, you're like, yeah, but they haven't stopped Gabriel all day long. What a moment for Dillon Gabriel in this on Saturday.
Yeah, I'd hate to be the guy who a week before wrote the line, Dillon Gabriel isn't good enough to beat Ohio State on his own. Now keep in mind that on his own kind of bailed me out like a little bit. But yeah, he was fantastic in that game. And if you wanted to get nitpicky, there were a couple moments where you're like, hey, like Tez was open right there, buddy. But just from like a sheer like being able to like handle that moment and handle that atmosphere and be able to like guide that type of team, like he was phenomenal, and he had some just absolutely money throws. He was much more efficient in the red zone. I think the Ducks were 5 of 6 in this game in the red zone, and it really did get me kind of wondering, like, what do you think happens next year, man? Because like I don't think that's a game that a first-year starting quarterback is going to win, or like a new starting quarterback is going to win. And so, like, I know you have Dante Moore as your backup, and that's the like presumed like next step. But if this Oregon roster is in a similar place next season, which like it feels like this window is wide open, like, do the Ducks go out and take like another like 1-year guy just to be able to like, the biggest difference in these types of games is having a quarterback that like can win them. And
Friday was like it was everything from he had a hangnail to they are looking to amputate, right? You had every possible outcome of that injury because none of us are at practice. And I think of like I remember when out of nowhere Darren Thomas was politely asked to exit stage left because there was this kid from Hawaii who was lighting everybody up in practice and came in and took over a Rose Bowl team. But then also there's the other side of it, which is when Dan Lanning inherited this team, if Ty Thompson had lived up to the 5-star recruit that he was, I don't know that they go get Bo Nix. So it is kind of how, like, one side or the other, where I think it's all about the evaluation of what Dante Moore is doing in practice.
It's just fascinating because, like, let's say Dante Moore, next year as a redshirt sophomore, let's say he's like an 85. What if you can go get a 93 somewhere? 85 is like a great start, and like it probably would progress you into being really good as a junior the next season. But as we saw against Ohio State, like the difference between winning and losing is so small in these top echelon games. I think it's just going to be absolutely fascinating for roster construction moving forward. And again, this isn't to say anything about like me having information on Dante Moore. We've seen very little of him outside of what he did at UCLA last year. But I also think what you saw him do at UCLA last year is quite a bit off from what we saw Dylan Gabriel do against Ohio State on Saturday.
I think you're in the mode now. Tyson Alger from the I-5 Corridor joining us on 620 Rip City Radio, where it's not show friends, it's show business. And much like in the NFL, Tyson, I think you take the idea of building a program down the road for years, right? I don't think exists anymore in college football at the level that Oregon and the big money programs are at. I think it is every year you put it together, a one-hit wonder, and try to go make a run at a trophy, and then lather, rinse, repeat, which I don't envy the coaches in what it must take to be able to pull that off.
Well, fortunately, sports writers and college football coaches are incredibly well compensated for their time.
Yes, same.
Probably the two most notable professions there. So.
All right, Tyson, let's dive into it. The 12 men on the field. There's three theories that I have seen, and I'm curious where you land, or maybe you have your own. Maybe we might add a variable, a fourth. A, Dan Lanning is a genius. He is playing four-dimensional chess while everybody else is playing checkers, and Ryan Day is a big dumb doofus, and he got him, and he's using the rules to his advantage. A. B, Dan Lanning is a cheating SOB, and the rule needs to be changed, and it crossed the line from gamesmanship to he's cheating. Or C, which is he didn't really do that on purpose. Oregon was maybe a bit frazzled, threw 12 guys out there, and it is the happiest accident, and while everyone's calling you a genius, you don't interrupt them. A, B, or C, or if you'd like to throw in a fourth, I'm curious your thoughts on the 12 men on the field.
It's not B.
Okay.
I like anybody like saying that they're cheating, like they did get penalized, and because it's not a penalty that you think is warranted, like they can address it, but like they did what they could within the rules of the game. It'd be crazy to be a local person with that take.
I mean, Friday 8:20. Just saying Friday 8:20.
I would say there's a 30% chance that they did that intentionally.
30%.
Knowing Dan Lanning, it's within the realm of possibility. I've done some profiles on this guy. He's talking to some of his like former assistant coaches and teammates, and they say that this is the type of dude who will be up, even 10 years ago would be up at 2 a.m. diagramming like time and situation type of stuff. So like it's completely within the realm of possibility. Actually, let's bump that up to 50% just to not get myself in trouble here.
Gotcha.
But we've seen Dan Lanning take advantage numerous times of not outright saying yes about things and not yet outright saying no about things. There's a whole portion of the country that already says that Dan Lanning turned down the Alabama job, right? Like
offered
it was
him
on the table.
Offered him $15 million a year. He said no.
I heard it was 50. Yeah. yeah, it's kind of turned into like the myth making story of like Dan Lanning, and it was the same thing with like some of the previous jobs that he turned down. There's just been he's a very perceptive and smart coach when it comes to like what can be manipulated into being a positive for Oregon. So I don't know.
No,
I
we'll
don't
never know.
Right? Yeah, I think it's completely possible that they could have done that, and I also think it's very possible that it worked out in their favor. And what coach is going to be like? No, I didn't think about that thing that's making me look genius right now. Like, I don't know if you watched the 18-minute Ducks versus them last night, but the one thing that I kept thinking about while watching that, and it's incredibly well done, like zero criticisms, like the amount of like footage and editing that they're able to do with that in a 2-day period is outstanding. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Dan Lanning in those, like a lot of Dan Lanning talk. Like it's kind of, and I know this is part of what they're supposed to do, but it's kind of like an 18-minute like Dan Lanning promo. Like they're really good at making him look good, which he is good, but like it's very much a point of emphasis, and I feel like the point of emphasis too is like turning him into like a brand of his own. So does having a genius call in the last 10 seconds of a game play into that? Possibly, even if it's not true.
Yeah, I mean, it is. He's the king of college football right now for this week, right? And it's like a week ago, it was, or going back in September, it was the guy from Northern Illinois. Then it was Kalen DeBoer. He's the greatest hire of all time, and then Kalen DeBoer is the biggest bust, and Alabama will never win a big game with him. And then now, a week after that, Dan Lanning is the king of college football. We'll see if Sark maybe takes the crown this weekend when Texas plays Georgia, but for the time being, yeah, strike while the iron's hot, and I get it. You're the biggest face of your program, and the biggest way to bring in big time recruits, other than a nice little NIL check, I think is kind of the celebrity power of your head coach. And right now, there's not a bigger celebrity in college football, I think, than Dan Lanning, because it's Wednesday, Tyson. We're still talking about the guy and one particular play call that he made on Saturday.
Yeah, and I hate doing like the comparing things to like when the chip era was really, putting the gas pedal down, but like there's a lot of similarities, man. It's just the national media descent.
Finally over the Chip Kelly era. That sounds like a great feature on, I don't know, maybe a Substack or something, or maybe even a segment on a radio show. I might be borrowing that, sampling that, as we say in the biz. Hey, Tyson, you can follow him on Twitter or X at Tyson Alger. You need to be subscribed to the I-5 Corridor for the best Oregon coverage around, if I do say so myself. And, of course, you can hear him each and every Wednesday on this particular program. Hey, have a great rest of your week, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week, bud.
Can't wait to break down Purdue, baby.
Love it. Let's go. The Boilermakers is next man up. All right, there you go. Tyson Alger from the I-5 Corridor. We have got the RCM mailbag to wrap up the show next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up the big show. But before we do, hey, Blazers tipping off the season on October the 23rd. That's right around the corner. And they'll be taking on the Golden State Warriors. Tickets are on sale now. Visit trailblazers.com/tickets and plan your trip to Rip City to experience the opening night tip-off of the 2024/25 Trailblazer basketball season at Moda Center. Basketball is back, baby. Let's go Blazers. All right, let's get to the mailbag. Here we go.
All right, firing up the big mailbag here on a Wednesday, Justin. Couple questions we're pretty excited to check in with.
Okay.
As a couple things that came to mind recently. But first, I have to ask you this. So before we get into the big meat of today, I got to ask you your initial thoughts because we talked a little bit about Applebee's earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And a little research, I found they are actually owned by IHOP. So I'd be curious to know who, driving in their cars right now, actually knew that Applebee's was owned by IHOP.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either.
But like you said, there's like 5 companies that own everything.
It's true.
They own
It's so true. Conglomerate. Like, should the same
And
people...
it's nothing that you would ever have heard of.
Yeah,
it's like
it's these crazy, like, again, the people who own...
IRG Solutions or something owns like everything.
Exactly. Like, again, Justin, what does Buffalo Wild Wings, Popeyes, and Arby's all have in common, yet they're owned by the same, food conglomerate, right? So it's like the days of these all being their ma and pa shops where it was started by so-and-so. Yeah, they sold out. Those people were on a beach somewhere.
That's
but
right.
anyway,
I want to sell out one time.
Just
one
I wanna
time I'd
sell
like
out.
to sell out.
Like, the people who created Buffalo Wild Wings, Justin, they are sitting on a beach somewhere.
Of course they
Like, same with... what's another one? Like, okay, the people who actually no, the Subway family still owns Subway. These are private, I believe. So that's not a good example, but like Pizza Hut, right? Those two dudes.
Yeah, they're owned by Pepsi. Or
Yes,
Yum
right,
Corporation,
yes,
whatever
and-
it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think is Yum Brands. So
Boom.
go figure, right? Also on Taco Bell. So and KFC. So go figure. But nevertheless, Justin, how did they are testing out the idea of having like a dual IHOP Applebee's where it's like both menus, one location.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to an IHOP. I've never, other than when I have messed around and gotten IHOP's chicken and waffles, which is quite tasty, I must say. I've never eaten anything lunchy or dinnery at IHOP other than chicken. So, Justin, considering that IHOP has a dinner menu, Applebee's doesn't have a breakfast menu, do we just wipe away IHOP's dinner menu and say go away?
Yeah, get rid of it. Nobody goes
Just
there.
get rid of it.
Just get rid of it. And yeah,
Classic.
basically just you take all your Applebee's, you open them up for breakfast, you put all the IHOP stuff in there, and call it a day.
Call it a day.
Call it a day.
I love it. I love it.
Well,
like if one came around here, we talked about the Pacific Northwest
Yeah.
and their appetite for wanting to see chains fail. I'll just leave it at that. Do you think something like this could work here?
I have no idea. I don't. I mean, would you be more intrigued to go to an Applebee's for breakfast if it had IHOP stuff? I don't know.
It's a good question.
I don't know. This is why I'm in sports radio and I'm not like some consultant at the corporate level going like, what Americans want is blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. I'm the worst guy to ask. But it does seem to make sense, right? Applebee's are all closed in the morning. We got tables. We got a whole kitchen. Let's whip up some flapjacks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with it. It's definitely interesting, and like I said, I wouldn't have known this if I didn't look it up from our earlier conversation. But nevertheless, owned by IHOP. So
I will
clearly,
say, International House of Pancakes. When
they're
it
making some cheddar.
when it first came around, like it hit big. I was always we were a Denny's family. Because of road trips, right?
Yeah.
I've talked about this multiple times. We would take road trips. We would stay at Motel 6, and next to every Motel 6, there was a Denny's. It all across this great country. I don't know if it's still that way, but Tom Bodette would leave the light on for us. We would stay at a Motel 6, and then we would get up in the morning. We would have breakfast at a Denny's, and then boom, we would hit the road and then find a McDonald's for lunch and continue to hit the road. And at some point, we would reach the Grand Canyon. It would take a while, but that was so we were. But I do remember when switched it up from a Denny's because you would always get the Grand Slam breakfast. Like, I've talked about rite of passages in this world, and mine are probably a little bit different. The moment you could stop ordering a Happy Meal and order a number, because you always get the number 2, the 2 cheeseburger meal. That's a trip into manhood. I would imagine for lots. And the moment you could stop getting the junior Grand Slam and get the regular Grand Slam breakfast at Denny's, what a day.
Yeah.
What a day. Sorry, little bro. You keep the kids menu. I'm getting the Grand Slam.
Yeah.
What a day.
Let's close here, Justin. McDonald's throwing out the chicken Big Mac. What circumstances would you try it? Not even eat it, just try it.
I mean, I would try it under a lot of circumstances, but would I order it? Everything else would have to be sold out.
If I tried it,
except the filet of fish.
Would you? Okay.
If it came down to chicken Big Mac or filet of fish, give me the chicken Big Mac.
You should tell your significant other that. But no, like if I tried it, would you be curious to know how it is?
I'm assuming it's like a McChicken, but just with an extra piece of bread. I don't know.
You get the Thousand Island sauce, though, man.
You do get the mac sauce, which a little bit underrated.
Clutch.
May come up on tomorrow's show. A big thanks to Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor. Thanks to super producer Brendan. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Wednesday. We're back at it tomorrow morning bright and early here on 620 Rip City Radio.